Good morning, and welcome to Area 10 Faith Community. My name is Blake, and this is the Area 10 Before. We've got about 10 minutes before we get started here, so now is a great opportunity to introduce yourself to someone around you. We know it might be intimidating, but do it. You won't regret it. We'll start up our worship service right at 10 a.m. If you're new to Area 10, we are so glad you decided to join us. We would love to know that you're here. If you're with us in person, be sure to get a Connect card from one of our greeters. If you're watching online, you can fill out our digital Connect card at area10church.com/connect. Connect cards are an easy way to introduce yourself, ask a question, or share a prayer request so we can be praying with you this week. If you want to give to Area 10 to support our mission to transform lives in the city for the city, you can donate through 3 different ways. You can give through the Area 10 app at area10church.com/give, or drop it in the giving boxes later in the service when we come forward for communion. At Area 10, we take communion every Sunday. If you're joining us online, go ahead and set aside some juice and a cracker for that portion of the service. If you're with us in person, we'll be coming forward directly after the message. You'll get more specific instructions when we get to that point in the service. The juice and wafer packets are gluten-free if you want or need that option. Are you interested in what's going on at Area 10 outside of Sunday mornings? Then we've got a ton of stuff for you. We've got events, Bible studies, small groups, and more on our upcoming calendar. You can check it out at area10church.com/calendar or sign up for our weekly newsletter to have the latest news delivered straight to your inbox. If you have kids with you this morning that are 10 or under, we have kid-friendly programming available at 2810, a community gathering place just a half a block away. At 2810, kids will have a safe environment to learn about God, Jesus, and the Bible in an age-appropriate way with crafts, music, and much more. There's still time to go check in your kids. Just ask one of the greeters. They're the folks wearing the orange lanyards if you need help finding. Are you in middle school or high school, or have a student who is? Then check out A10 Students, which meets on Wednesday nights at 2810 at 6:30. Students have the chance to build community and develop their own faith through games, worship, teaching, and small groups. Myself and the other A10 student leaders would love to see you there. Go to area10church.com/students to learn more. Alrighty, everybody, we've got just 5 more minutes before service gets started. So top off your coffee, find a good seat, talk to someone around you, and we'll get going here soon. Let's get that 5-minute countdown rolling. Hey guys, my name is Blake, and I've got a couple quick things to let you know before we get started with our worship service. If you're new to Area 10, we ask all of our first-time guests to try 5. That means we want you to come to Area 10 either online or in person 5 times before deciding if Area 10 is a place where you can grow your faith. If you're with us in person, you can fill out the physical Connect card you were handed as you came in this morning. If you're joining us online, you can fill out the digital version at area10church.com/connect. When you fill out the Try 5 portion of the card, someone on our staff will reach out to you this week to connect with you, see if you have any questions, and give you a little more information about Area 10. If, after 5 weeks, you decide to keep looking for another faith community, just let us know. We would be happy to help you find some of the other great churches in our area. What matters to us is that you find a place where you can connect with God, find your people, and change the world. Now, our worship band is going to lead us in a couple of songs, so please stand and sing with us as we worship God.
Good morning, church. Let's all stand this morning and just center ourselves. Let's focus on the Lord this morning. We're going to worship. Here we go.
My
And that term, almighty fortress, it's not a quote directly out of the Bible, but it's taken from Psalm 46. It says, God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we should not fear. So I just want to pray for us, especially those of us that are experiencing any kind of fear and anxiety. Let's bow our heads. Lord, I just pray that you would reveal yourself this morning, Father, as our almighty fortress. God, as our refuge, that we would turn to you, Lord, in the midst of any fear that we have, in the midst of any anxiety, anything that is crippling us in this moment, Lord, that we would give it to you, Father. That you would show yourself to be the King, the Lion of Judah, Lord, that we can look to. We love you. Father, that we can declare that it is well. It is well in the midst of whatever we're going once again, once again. And I will praise Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Come on, lift his name up, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. You make darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Yes, your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Sing that out. Your name is alive that the shadow can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be body there would not remain. Our God has robbed the grave. Our God has robbed the grave. Your name is victory. Your praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. Your praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The resurrected King is resurrecting me.
You could go ahead and have a seat. My name is Christopher. I'm the executive minister here at Area 10, and just welcome. So glad you were here this morning. When you came in, hopefully you were given a connection card, and that's just a really good tool for us to make sure that we are staying connected. We have updated information. Maybe you've changed your phone number or email address, or you moved and you need to update that. You could use that card for that. Most importantly, we really use that card because of prayer requests. If you have things going on in your life and you want our prayer team and our staff and our elders to be praying for you over the week and being able to follow up, you could write those prayers on the back of that and drop them off in our offering boxes here in the front a little bit later in service. We also use those cards for our new visitors. We have this process that we call Try 5. We believe it's pretty hard to get to know anyone after just one interaction. I'm going to move this because I don't think Chris wants to have that in his face. We think it's hard to get to know someone after just one interaction. And so we always ask our new visitors, come visit us 5 times. And at the end of those 5 times, Area 10 isn't the place that you feel like you can explore your faith and grow in your faith. We'll actually help you find another church. We really just want to help people get plugged into some of the really beautiful churches that exist around the greater Richmond area. So if you are new with us, if this is your first, second, third, fourth, or fifth time, we would love for you to fill out that connection card. And if it is your first or fifth time in particular, take that completed card back to the next steps table in the back of this room at the end of the service. And we have a gift just for you. We'd love to connect with you, hear a little bit about how you found Area 10, and answer any questions you might have. I just have 2 quick announcements this morning. The first being, back in December of 2023, right? We're in 2024 now. Time is weird, wibbly wobbly. Our Advent project was to kind of increase some of our partnerships in the community. And one of the most consistent this year has been working with Replenish and Generosity Feeds to do kind of food packing and backpack packing events. And we have our last one of the year coming up next Saturday, November 2nd. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Yes, Dan. I like that excitement. This has been a beautiful thing that we have been able to contribute in helping with food scarcity here in the greater Richmond area and help some of the local schools, particularly Fox Elementary School, which is right around the corner or a few blocks away. If you're interested in helping and you're free, you could bring your kids as well. This is a family-oriented thing that you could all participate in. We just ask that you sign up so we make sure we have a proper head count and that Dan can reach out to you and follow up and give you all the necessary information. He's the big cheerleader for that. So that again is going to be on Saturday, November 2nd. Really want to encourage you to come to that. And then on Sunday, November 3rd, we have a new thing that we've never really done here before, and we're calling it a Next Steps Lunch. And this is specifically for those that are like brand new to Area 10. If you've been at Area 10 for like 7 years and you're a partner, don't sign up for this. Don't try and get a free lunch out of me. I see you. You're like, oh, free childcare and free lunch? Sign me up. This is not for you. This is for those folks who maybe you are new to Area 10 and you're in that Try 5 process or you've recently completed it and you're not really plugged into a small group yet, you haven't met people, and you want to know more about who Area 10 is. You want to know kind of maybe our values and our beliefs, you want to just be able to meet some new people and get connected with some great people in the church, next Sunday is going to be specifically for you. So really want to encourage you to sign up for that. And I think we have a QR code, right? Yeah, we have a QR code. You could also sign up through our website. Same thing with the packing event. You could sign up through our website or through our app. But if you are new, we would love to see you at this Next Steps lunch. Myself, I'm going to be there. Rachel Woolard, who's our communication pastor, is going to be there. Dan is going to be there, I think. We'll have a few other folks. And again, we have childcare provided, and we'll have some great food. We just need you to sign up so we know how much food and how many childcare workers to have. With that, we're going to continue our series on David. Go ahead and take a look at this video.
So, for my money, one of the greatest films of all time is the original Karate Kid. You can fight me about that if you want, but I'll win because I learned moves in that movie that will win the fight for me. But I think it's a fun movie. You know, it's very 80s. But and I bring that up knowing that is a pretty dated reference. But Gen Z kids know what the Karate Kid is also. So it's like it is a timeless classic right up there with like Citizen Kane. But there are several lines in the movie that always stick with me. And one of them, if you remember, was from the bad guys, the Cobra Kai dojo, and particularly the leader of the Cobra Kai dojo was just a mean dude, right? And he said this particular thing about mercy. You remember him saying, he says, "We do not train to be merciful here. Mercy is for the weak. Here, in the streets, in competition, a man confronts you, he is the enemy. An enemy deserves no mercy." You might remember that, right? And I was like, oh man, that's so tough. But it should be the idea of mercy being just for weak people. That should be jarring to you a little bit. You're like, no, that's not right. Like, you should show mercy. That's good. And I would say that even if you're not a Christian, it's because you grew up in a Christian-influenced country that the idea of not showing mercy is jarring to you. You could go to other cultures in the world today, in other countries today, and they don't value mercy that way. They're not going to have a reaction of like, oh, I should be merciful. That's not necessarily baked into every culture in the history of the world. Certainly in the Roman Empire, if you go all the way back there, the Roman Empire would have been very comfortable in the Cobra Kai dojo. They would have been like, yes, mercy's for the weak. We don't really show that. That's not a thing that strong people should show. And so I want to talk today about this idea of mercy and a related idea of forgiveness. And I don't want to talk about our country. Should our country show mercy to our enemies? Should global countries show mercy to their enemies? But really just for us personally. What does it look like for us to extend mercy when it's needed? What does it look like for us to extend forgiveness when there's been a burning of a relationship? How do we do that, and why would we do that? And I would argue, and I'll just tell you this right up front, I would argue that you personally showing mercy and forgiveness is one of the best things you can do in your life. It's one of the greatest things you'll ever do is extend mercy and forgiveness to people who have wronged you. It's powerful, and it may not change the other person, but it has a profound effect on you, yourself, and your own mental health and your own well-being. And so I want to talk to you about this idea of mercy, and I want to tell it through a story of a guy named David, King David. We've been talking about him in this series. We've been doing this series called Shadow King, and we're talking about David, who lived 3,000 years ago, and he was king of Israel for a time. And his culture and his life is very different than ours. We're not kings in an ancient civilization, and so he's dealing with different things than we deal with. But the reality is, the lyrics may change, but the song remains the same for humanity. We are still kind of singing those same songs with our lives. We are still running into the same problems. We are still dealing with the same challenges. And so the stuff David walked through thousands of years ago, we still kind of walk through those things today. And so it's worth looking at him because his life can give us little glimpses of what our life could be, or we can find some things about the way he interacted that we could also interact with God and with others. And we said, as a shadow, he foreshadows Jesus. So if Jesus is the central figure in Christianity, 1,000 years before Jesus comes, there's this guy named David, and there's a lot of little elements of his story that kind of point you to the greater king that was coming in King Jesus. So we talked about last week, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Samuel anointed David to be king, and so he's a teenage shepherd boy at this time. He's going to be king, but he's not king yet, but God has chosen, this is my guy, David's going to be king. So David knows this, Saul knows this. He goes out and fights against Goliath. We talked about that last week, which was, spoiler alert, David wins that battle, and it goes well for Israel, and he kind of becomes this sort of national hero even as a teenager. And, success when you have it very early in life, like childhood stars or teen sports celebrities or whatever, that doesn't always go well. David's handling it at this point pretty well. And he's growing in popularity even though he's not king. Now Saul, who is king, Saul decides that he's had enough of David as his successor, and Saul wants to kill David. Now this also happens a lot in history. Kings get very jealous of their successor. They think they're going to be rulers forever. And so someone rises up to be successor, and the king's like, I'm just going to kill that person. I'll show them who's boss. And so Saul tries in several attempts to kill David and just wipe him out so that David doesn't take the throne. So David runs away from Saul. He goes out of Jerusalem, he flees for his life, and he ends up camping out in the wilderness. Israel, and particularly that corner of Israel, it's pretty desolate outside the city. It's pretty barren out there, not a lot of trees, just deserty as you picture. And so he camps out near the Dead Sea, and he ends up in this place called En-Gedi. Let me read it to you. 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 1. When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, "Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi." Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and we went to seek David and his men in front of the wild goats' rocks. So David is camping out in this place called En-Gedi near the Dead Sea, and he's hiding there. Now, most of that area is barren and dead-looking, but there is that spot there where it's like got water and waterfalls and caves, and it's actually kind of pretty in the midst of all that. So that's kind of where David's hiding out in that area. Saul hears that David's hiding out maybe around there, so he takes his guys and he goes down there. Now, Saul's got 3,000 men with him. David also has guys with him. He has about 400 men. David's men, and we're told in 1 Samuel 22, David's men are guys who are sort of down on their luck. They're having a hard time. It said some of them were in debt. So these are like guys that have fallen on hard times and things aren't going incredibly well. These are the guys that sign up to be David's soldiers, his foot soldiers, to work with David, which is wild. Like Saul is out there with, at this point, trained killers of the army, and David's out there with this ragtag rebel force of a bunch of like down on their luck guys, and they're all hanging out in the woods and hiding from Saul. And so Saul hears that David is there, and he goes. And during this, he has to go to the bathroom. So verse 3. And he came to the sheepfolds by the way, where there was a cave. And Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. Not a lot to explain there. Not a lot of Hebrew words that are very interesting in there. The man had to go, and there's a cave. And he's like, I'm just going to go in here and go. Verse 4. And the men of David said to him, "Here is the day of which the Lord said to you, Behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you." Then David arose and stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe. All right, so David's got his entourage, right? He's got his guys that are with him, and they see this happen. They see Saul's going in here to go to the bathroom. It's in the cave that David and his guys are hiding. They see this and they're like, "Bro, this is your moment. This is it. Remember, God told you that he's going to give his enemies over into your hand? This is that moment. Here's your enemy. You can just go kill him. In the cave, like no one's going to know. This is your chance to get your revenge. Like that guy's been trying to kill you. Like you can imagine them hyping David up for this. And so David rolls up on Saul and doesn't kill him. Instead, David, strangely enough, cuts off the corner of his robe. And that's kind of odd. Like, why not go for the kill? Like, that was the moment. Think about this. David, he knew he was God's choice to be king. And the guys around him knew that David's eventually going to be king. And this was his chance. He could rise up in that moment and take the role of king by just knocking off the current king. And who would know? It's like in the cave in secret. Like, this seems like the perfect opportunity to go take what's yours. To just be like, God told me I'm going to be king, I'm going to go get it, right? And he had that opportunity. But he doesn't go try to take this by force. That's a trap he could fall into. Oh, go make this happen on your own. He actually doesn't want to do that. And I think there's maybe some lessons in this for us. One of them is, I think we need to be faithful to God in whatever spot we're at. Like, we may have a vision of the future and go, okay, God is going to do this for me one day, and God has told me, or I'm clear this is the direction I'm going. But we don't have to go grab these things by force. There's a sense that we can sit back and let it come to us. Because maybe in the moment and in the waiting, that's exactly where the growth will be produced in us. If David goes from beating Goliath to, and the next day he's king, well, all David has ever known is wins, right? And that might actually not make a great king, someone who's just stacks up all the wins all the time. Like, he needed a down season. He needed the darkness. He needed a waiting season to season him so that he would be ready to actually lead when the moment came. So maybe we just need to be faithful. Whatever spot you're in right now, maybe God is telling you, hey, just hang out there and season a little bit. Let's tenderize you a little bit. Let's work on your heart now in the season that you're in. And don't go grab something by force just because you think it's there. Now, David does not kill Saul in this moment, despite what his advisors were telling him. And I think that's weird. They say to him, remember how God told you that he's going to deliver your enemies into your hands? Okay, first of all, we actually don't have record of God saying that to David. So either God said it and it's just not recorded, which is possible, or it could be that God didn't exactly say that, but that's the way they're relaying the story to him. They're like, God basically told you, basically carries a lot of weight in those sentences. God basically said that you're gonna beat your enemies, and here's your enemies, so go for it, right? Like, there's some interpretation going on there with his advisors. And David's moral compass here, his sense of what is the right thing to do in this moment, it doesn't come from the people around him. Our standards of what is right and what is good and what is moral and true and just, that doesn't just come from the people around us. It actually has to come to us from God's Spirit within us. Our moral compass, say it this way, our moral compass doesn't come from what does the media say, or what did that one professor tell me in college, or what did my mom teach me, or whatever. Those are all things to consider, but we actually need to be dialed into something else. We need to be dialed into what does God actually say about that? What is God's Spirit actually telling me about this? We have to dig deeper, and we have to spend time reading His Word and understanding it. I think this is such a critical life skill, especially in 2024. We are just surrounded by so much noise, so much shouting, so much you should do this, and you need to speak up this way, but you shouldn't speak up this way, and this is what's important. All of these noises are telling, and voices are telling us how we're supposed to act, how we're supposed to show up. How do you cut through all that noise? Well, in part, you do what David does. You get dialed into God's Spirit. This is why, as a church, we frequently emphasize the idea of solitude, the idea of getting quiet and alone. I've talked about it even in this series, that David as a shepherd grew up in environments where he had a lot of time to be quiet and alone. And there's something about that season or that time of getting quiet and alone that you learn to hear God and learn to focus and learn to recognize of all the voices that are swirling around your head, you learn to recognize which voice is his. Not all of us need to be shepherds. That's probably not the right career move in 2024. But all of us need to get quiet and alone. Have you guys seen the movie A Quiet Place? Have you seen the movie A Quiet Place Day One? All right, it's the new one, right? I saw it on a plane a few weeks ago because disaster movies on planes is really fun. So, and it was what I would expect. There's a lot of tension and all that, but they put up this statistic because the whole movie takes place in New York City, and they put up this statistic at the beginning of the movie. I don't know if it's true. I haven't looked. It sounds right to me. They put this statistic. They said on the streets in New York, the average decibel level of noise that you hear is 90 decibels, just on average. And they said this is equivalent to hearing someone screaming at all times. So to just walk out onto the streets in New York, it's like you're walking into people screaming. And I hear that and I go, I don't want to live in New York. But also, and some of you are like, this is why I live in Hanover, bro. It's quiet there. And I get that. I live 2 blocks from here. So it's not that quiet where I live. There's noise. It's not 90 decibels of screaming. There's some screaming, but I think those neighbors are okay now. There's some noise, right? But it's not constant, but it's still not quiet. It's hard to get quiet, right? But we need some quiet. We need some solitude. We need some peace if we're going to hear God and if we're going to dial into his voice. To set my moral compass and calibrate it with his, I have to get quiet and alone. David has done that. And that's something we need as well. So let me read on what happens. Verse 5. And afterward, David's heart struck him because he had cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed. So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way. It's interesting to me. David shows mercy. He doesn't kill Saul. He just takes a corner of his robe, which is going to come up later of like, hey, by the way, did you notice your robe's gone and whatever. Like there's going to be this moment of reckoning. But David, even in doing that, his moral compass is set in such a way that even after doing that, he immediately feels bad about it. And he's like, I just shouldn't do this. He shows mercy to Saul and doesn't kill him in the moment, and then he feels guilty that he even got close to something like that. And in fact, if you read it, he calls Saul his Lord. He said, basically, who am I to do that to my Lord? The Lord's anointed is the way he refers to Saul. It's crazy. Do you refer to the person who wants you dead as the Lord's anointed? I don't. I would not. That's not what I call my enemies. I don't say, oh, this is God's hammer of judgment on my life. Like I don't think that way. But David refers to Saul as the Lord's anointed, and he refers to him as my Lord. How does David show this incredible restraint and this incredible level of mercy here? Because you could just be like, well, I'm not David. Yeah, sure, you're not, I'm not. Right, but is there something we can get out of this? Number one, I think it's this, and we see this from David. Understand who you are dealing with. Every person you've ever met is made in the image of God. They have the stamp of divinity on them. Even jerks, even your ex, even the person who broke your heart, even the person who has betrayed you. That's who you're dealing with. You're dealing with people who have been made in the image of God. We are you and I are surrounded by people that we think do not deserve good treatment. Oh man, if you knew what they did, you would do what I'm going to do to them. Like, I'm going to get my vengeance, I'm going to get my revenge. You got to see, they're so terrible. We're surrounded by people. We think, man, they just don't deserve to be treated well. But because they are made in the image of God, they do deserve to be treated well. This idea is profound in the history of the world. The idea that the early Christians believed that all people were created in the image of God, this changed the way they behaved. The Roman Empire, if they didn't want a baby, you'd give birth to a baby and you'd leave it on a trash heap and you'd just go, I don't want this baby. And the early Christians went along and said, that baby's made in the image of God, I'm going to rescue that baby and become the child's godparents, basically, and I'm going to raise that child. That's what the early Christians did. The early Christians started hospitals for the poor and the hurting and the sick, and they looked around, they went door to door to find people who were hurting to take care of them. They didn't think, oh, that person's poor, sick, or hurting, they're less than me, they're beneath me. They said, no, I'm with them, they are like me, I am one of them, they are one of me, I'm going to take care of them and care for them because that's what God calls me to do, because they believed that all people had that stamp of divinity, the image of God on them. And it's that idea that people create in the image of God has changed Christians' behavior throughout history and has compelled people to show an incredible amount of mercy. I love how C.S. Lewis says this. He says, it is in light of these overwhelming possibilities, it is with the awe and the circumspection proper to them, that we should conduct all our dealings with one another, all friendships, all loves, all play, all politics. There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. Nations, cultures, arts, civilizations, these are mortal, and their life is to ours as life of a gnat. But it is immortals whom we joke with, work with, marry, snub, and exploit. Next to the blessed sacrament itself, your neighbor is the holiest object presented to your senses. Look around the room. You see these people sitting here? These people are the holiest object that has been presented to your senses. Some of you are like, I wish you would have told me you were going to say that. I would have showered. I understand that. Regardless, you are the holiest thing I'm ever going to see today. We are that, one another, to one another. It is a powerful thought that if you let that thought get a hold of you, it changes the way you actually show up and work. And David sees it. David sees it in Saul. Doesn't like Saul. It's not a good relationship. But he recognizes who he's dealing with. This is a child of God. Now, our society, we don't have like a caste system like in India where people have a name and these are the elites and these are not the elites. But we have classes, right? We don't have names for them necessarily, but we have social classes. We have elites. We have people that are more important than other people, or we sort of act like that, or these are the impressive people, or these are the rich people, or these are the good people. We have a system by which we score, and you've got people that are at the top end of that system, and then people are at the lower end, and you know, we don't say, oh, they're of a different class than me. We'll just say, oh, they went to that school. Oh, they live in that neighborhood. Oh, their kids go to those kind of schools. Like, those people are white collar and they have white collar jobs and they're fancy. And then there's other people, oh, they have a blue collar job, they're just regular. And we just kind of make these little distinctions where we subtly communicate that some people, everybody's special, but some people are a little more special than others. Some people have a little more value than others. That's kind of what we do. And kingdom of God people, followers of Jesus, we have to look beyond that and not get hung up on those kind of distinctions. This is why I told you a couple weeks ago, if you're going to memorize one verse out of this whole David account, memorize the verse in 1 Samuel 16 where it says, the man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. This is what kingdom of God people are supposed to do. Not judge the outward appearance, not be hung up on all the how much money they make and how good do they look and all those things. We are supposed to be the people who go, I'm going to be a heart person. I'm going to look at the heart. I'm going to, and that's not easy to see, right? But I'm going to look deeper into people and not just go with the externals. The New Testament says it this way. James, the book of James, Jesus' brother, he said this, My brothers, show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. For if a man wearing a gold ring and fine clothing comes into your assembly, and a poor man in shabby clothing also comes in, and if you pay attention to the one who wears the fine clothing, and you say, you sit here in a good place, while you say to the poor man, you stand over there, or sit down at my feet, have you not then made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? I mean, apparently this is a problem in the early church, right? They're still trying to get a hold of this concept. And James was why people love the book of James. He's very direct. He's like, look, rich guy comes in, poor guy comes in. Don't act like, oh, you're rich, you get the nice seat, and you're poor. You just sit over here by my feet. He goes, no, don't make those kind of distinctions. We need to be the people who understand that who we're dealing with. We understand that every person you've ever seen is made in the image of God. And so we need to treat them with respect. One of the reasons we can show mercy, David shows mercy, is because we recognize who we're dealing with. This is a child of God also. Secondly, that's step one. Secondly is this: understand how God has dealt with you. How does David show this incredible mercy in this moment? Because if I'm in that cave, I'm not sure that's the move I would have made. How does he do it? Is he just built different? We just go, well, I mean, he's just kind of great, right? He's David, that's why we talk about him, write about him. He was just extra. It's like, no, I don't think that's it. I think he was also dialed into God's mercy, and he understood how God had dealt with him. Some of the Psalms, and we'll look at one in detail later in a different week, but some of the Psalms specifically tell us that they were written while David was hiding out in the wilderness. Psalm 57 is one of those. David writes this from a cave somewhere. And listen to what he says in Psalm 57, verse 1. So this is how it starts. To the choir master, according to do not destroy, a miktam of David, when he fled from Saul in the cave. Okay, you want an insight into David's mindset? He wrote it in a song. He says, be merciful to me, O God, be merciful to me, for in you my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings I will take refuge, till the storms of destruction pass by. I cry out to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me. He will send from heaven and save me. He will put to shame him who tramples on me, Selah. God will send out his steadfast love and his faithfulness. What is David thinking about? Where's his heart, mind, soul in that moment or in that time when he's hiding from Saul? His mind is, as he starts that psalm, have mercy on me, O God, be merciful to me. He's thinking about, in part, the mercy of God, not just what he extends to someone else. And if you're thinking about and writing about and singing about how God has been merciful to you, don't you think that might show up in how you would extend mercy to other people? God's been merciful to me, but you're going to get it, and I'm going to give it to you. I'm just going to punish you, right? No. He goes, God's merciful to me, I need to extend that to others. The principle is what we have received from God, we are to extend to others. Why should we extend mercy? Because God showed it to us. Why should we love other people? Because God so loved the world, he loved us. Why should we forgive other people? Because God has forgiven us. What God has done to us roots us and grounds us. On my own, with my own willpower, I will not show mercy, at least not consistently. I might do it if I slept well that night and I got a good meal and I was just in my ideal space. I did box breathing and meditated for a while. I might show mercy, but not consistently. I'll eventually devolve into thinking that showing mercy is basically weakness. You see this in societies in history. Mercy has not been the most popular virtue, Outside of Christianity, not all cultures show mercy, and those that do, that aren't Christian-based, usually root it in the self. It's usually like show mercy to others because that's how you would want to be treated. And that's not bad, but it's not sustaining. We need to go further than that and root our mercy that we show to others in the mercy that God has shown to us. It's a powerful thing. Do you see how, if you recognize what God has done for you, how that shapes your identity? In a culture that's so hung up on identity and we're so worried about that, like psychologically, we need to consider how the mercy of God changes us on the inside. It's a powerful thing. You when you have done wrong, you cannot let yourself off the hook. You can't just show mercy to others, you can't just show mercy to yourself and forgive yourself. I know we talk about it all the time in culture. You just need to forgive yourself. But really what we're talking about is that we feel shame and how we can be free of shame. And I would argue that the solution to shame is not forgiving yourself. That's not something Scripture ever tells us to do. It's not something I think you can do. Because when you have hurt someone, you can't forgive you of that. You did something to them. Something outside of you is going to have to let you off the hook. And maybe you go to a person and say, will you forgive me? And they forgive you and you are let off the hook sort of psychologically. But outside of that, this is where we go to God. The fundamental reality for followers of Jesus is this. We are sinners. We have been forgiven by God. We have received his mercy. He has loved us, seen what we've done, and he has let us off the hook. He has forgiven us. That is a powerful idea. And so we of all people should be the ones to go, oh, I have been shown mercy. I have been forgiven. Therefore, I'm going to extend that to other people. I deserved punishment, but what I got was mercy and forgiveness. What I got was grace. And this should free us up to show this mercy and grace and forgiveness to other people. In fact, it would be unjust of us to not show mercy and not give forgiveness to others. Because then we would be like, I'm just going to receive all this forgiveness from God, but I'm not going to give it to anyone else. Like, that's not a just way to live. So this is true of mercy when we don't give the punishment they deserve, and that's what David does. But also this is true of forgiveness, which, I've said these concepts a little bit interchangeably, but forgiveness actually moves beyond mercy. When we forgive, we choose not to punish someone. We give up the right for punishment. See, a lot of times when we're hurt by someone, we just say in our hearts, I'm going to hold this over you for the rest of your life. You hurt me, and I'm not going to forgive you. And usually we do one of three things. We go to the person, and we try to shame them into apologizing, and we go like, you did me wrong, and you keep bringing it up to them in hopes they'll apologize. Or we bring it up to other people in hopes that the other people will go to that person and punish them for what they've done. Or we just bring it up to ourselves a lot and hope that somehow punishment will eventually fall on that person who has hurt us. If we'll just, keep them in our mind and just kind of keep bringing it up. Maybe God or the universe or something will punish that person. And forgiveness, when we choose to forgive, it lets go of all of that. It doesn't say the person didn't do me wrong. It doesn't pretend that. What it does do is say, okay, I'm choosing to let go of this. Forgiveness isn't get over it, because you may never get over it, right? But forgiveness is get off of it. It's saying, I am choosing to not punish. I am choosing to let you deal with God as you need to, but I'm not going to seek vengeance. I am choosing to swallow the offense, even if they don't apologize, and that's a very hard thing to do. It's very hard to swallow the offense. I think if you're not a follower of Jesus, it's even harder. But I think for Jesus followers, you have to say, I believe in God, I trust God, and I'm going to let him do as he sees fit in this situation. You extend forgiveness to others. And I would say this, you extend mercy and forgiveness even if you're not feeling it. These things are a commitment you make regardless of whether you feel it or even before you feel it. So I think, as much as I enjoyed the movie, I think the Cobra Kai Dojo is wrong. And I think you can actually see that in the movie. But I don't think mercy is for the weak. Mercy is for the strong. They're the only ones who can show it. The people who actually have some strength and power in a situation can actually extend mercy. And it takes a lot to swallow an offense. It's hard. Some of you know exactly what that's like. You're trying to swallow an offense right now. And you're going, I don't like the way this feels. I totally get that. But we are called to remember that, hey, all these other people are in the image of God, and God has shown me mercy and forgiveness, and God will extend that to them, and God will deal with them rightly, and I don't have to be the judge, jury, and executioner in their life. David foreshadows what Jesus does for us. David is in a cave in a dark place, and he offers mercy to Saul, even though Saul deserved punishment. Jesus, he looks at us, and we deserve punishment. We have sinned. We have fallen short. We have done stupid things, and we deserve punishment. And Jesus doesn't go to a cave. He goes to a cross. And on that cross, he forgives us and shows us mercy and forgives us of our sins. We're going to celebrate this now. We're going to take bread and juice down the front that represents the body and blood of Christ. You can go out the left of your aisle and come around the front. You can get the bread, tear it off, dip it in the juice, and remember that sacrifice that he made for you. While you're there are 3 boxes there. You can put your connection card in there. You can give an offering if you want to give back financially a portion of what God has given to you. You want to give that. You can put that in those boxes as well. But just take this time to think, to pray, to remember as you walk with the holiest of people that you're going to see, as the other image bearers of God as you walk forward. Just take this time to remember these people created in the image of God. I was created in the image of God. I need to extend mercy and forgiveness, and think about maybe where that would apply to you even this week. Let's stand. We're going to sing together and take communion.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning and worshiping together. Just a few quick reminders. If you are new with us this morning, please make sure to take that connection card back to the next steps table at the end of the service. It's in the back of this room. Also, don't forget to sign up for the meal packing or the Next Steps lunch if you're new to Area 10. And then lastly, if you would like someone to pray over you, pray with you, celebrate with you, things that are going on, we have our prayer team over here by these red curtains just on the left side. So as everyone else is leaving, feel free to come forward towards them.